The door log stamped 1:41 a.m. The guest code used my middle name. I'm not jealous of bodies, I'm jealous of credentials. Bodies tell the truth if you stop staging them. Credentials decide which truth gets to arrive. At 1:41 a.m., our lock sent me the kind of cheerful cruelty only software has perfected. Guest code accepted Miles C. Front door. The middle initial was mine. The name was. The app showed a tidy green checkmark like a concierge who gets promoted for remembering every wrong face perfectly. Rowan had texted at 10:45. Bored, wants one more drink. Don't wait up. He's good at the off-stage parts, the smile you rent for a grant, the posture you loan to applause. At 7:05 I filmed the coffee because ritual is cheaper than religion and keeps better hours. I captioned it here. He reacted with the thumbs up he saves for nights that intend to rename themselves. The lock didn't rename anything, it confessed. The apartment had the posture rooms get when they've practiced a story without you. The radiator breathed like an amateur chorus. The mirror in the hall practiced being a window. I boiled water because water doesn't audition. It commits to heat and lets time do the rest. I set out 2 mugs and then put one back, because habit after midnight is just a volunteer for regret. At 3:04 the lock cleared its throat. Rowan stepped in with his jacket folded over his arm and his shoes hooked by 2 fingers like witnesses too tired to lie. He smelled like lime and the kind of decision you can only make under forgiving light. He kissed the air near my cheek, our administrative truce, and then saw the screen on the counter, neat as a ledger. "You're up," he said, as if etiquette had mailed me a warning. "The door thinks you brought home a man with my middle name," I said. "It let him in like he pays rent." His pupils turned into clocks, the small dilation that arrives just before he chooses a verb. He put the shoes down like small boats that pretended they understood harbors, and set both palms on the table the way our therapist taught us when we wanted to give words somewhere to land. The gesture is either dignity or triage. "Which question?" he asked. "Why or who?" "Why," I said, because Matt, my emergency adult, kicks me under imaginary tables when I lead with names. If I start with who, the checkmark writes our minutes. Rowan looked at the patch of wall where the paint keeps wanting to retire without ceremony. "Because the scene wouldn't land," he said. "Because donors clapped in the wrong places and wanted to be forgiven with gin. Because the lark turned the music up right where honesty gets shy. Because Miles, yes, the other one, said he'd left his jacket on our chair last weekend and the bar had closed and he didn't want to sleep at his ex's. Because I told the door to be kind, and then expected the night to behave because technology had remembered my grammar." "Did you kiss him?" I asked, breaking Matt's superstition like a boy with a stick and a fence. "In the hallway," he said. "Once, small and honest and wrong. I told him the code wasn't a promise. He said having a name in common is a kind of permission. I said it is. I came home." "I hate how sane that sounds," I said, which is the sentence I keep for mercy that arrives before I can match its tone. We didn't sleep. We did something more humiliating and useful. We texted the other Miles to meet us in daylight. Noon makes cities pretend to be merciful. Men remember they don't have to choose their verbs without witnesses. He waited at the cafe under our building with a paper cup and the posture of a man prepared to pay for his verbs. He saw us both and didn't pretend surprise, my favorite trick in men who owe a room honesty. "I was coming to apologize," he said, "to you both and to whatever part of your door thinks initials are talismans. He loves you." He nodded toward Rowan. "I like being near that. I'm sorry my mouth uses the same grammar as desire when it's raining." "You don't get to call it ours," I said, "because cleverness is my superstition and I tithe when I'm anxious. Rehearsal is a room, A kiss is a scene. A code is a noun. You don't get to be the verb in our kitchen. He lifted his hands like a man willing to be inventoried, and left with the small discipline of someone who had decided to be a better roomer. At home, I moved the kitchen chair into the middle of the room because procedures save men when gods won't. Rowan smiled like a man relieved to be caught kindly. He came around the table and paused, always that pause, his most decent habit. I met him halfway. The first kiss carried the correct weight, apology without speeches. The second slid his fingers under my shirt and my hand to the back of his neck, the place he keeps for oaths and sleep. We didn't perform a ceremony. We used heat as a system. If I could draw you the rest without being evicted by an algorithm that prefers virtue louder than accuracy, I would. Keep the inventory, breath that belonged to both of us, a belt resigning with grace, a wrist pinned with permission and not claim. The room did not applaud. It didn't need to. The city prefers quizzes. 2 nights later, the theater's account posted a carousel at 1:41 a.m. Hans saw light in the green room mirror, 4 bodies if you counted reflections. Rowan washing his hands, head down. The other miles behind him, tie loosened. A stranger carrying a pizza like a rumor. Me in the doorway because someone had tagged my name with the zeal of helpful spectators. The caption said boys being brave. Comments declared absolutes. I typed nothing. I set the phone face down. I placed the chair in the center again, until the silence remembered its job. Rowan came home and handed me his phone without instructions. Delete or archive, he said. I don't want new grammar. You don't need me to erase your verbs, I said. He rested his forehead against mine like a paperweight on a better draft. 3 days later, the email arrived in fonts that have never had to apologize to a kitchen. Residency, 7 days, quiet rooms, kind windows. Rowan forwarded the PDF with every map attached, which is how you know a man has learned where courage keeps its receipts. I want to go without disappearing, he wrote. I'll send pages, not alibis. When I get back, ask me what I wrote before what I did. I taped 2 lines under the lemon magnet because props still save us when God is off shift. Addresses in the open. A good night here voice note every day. He added a third in his careful mess. If an I can't is coming, it happens where both of us are. Night 1, wind and a sentence I decided to believe. Today the table forgave me. Night 3, nothing, and my thumb turned into the worst teenager in the world. I opened the lock app and stared at the access list like prophecy might be spelled in 4 digits. I deleted the code labeled Miles C. I renamed the guest slot later. I moved the chair instead. At 8:12 he called with a voice that made the kettle think there might be a god. I almost kissed a window, he said. It didn't know your name. I closed the blinds. He came back with a suitcase that didn't slam and 2 pages he treated like animals. They're not good, he said. They're mine, I said, and we performed our small religion. Paper, kettle, a room that knows it isn't a lobby. He slid his hands under my shirt from behind, slower than contrition, faster than nostalgia. Here, he whispered into the bend of my neck, the only word left that doesn't demand witnesses. We tried boring. We failed gracefully. We tried again. The other Miles learned to stand at the back of the house with his arms crossed like a man paying the bill he owes himself. He clapped exactly once after the intimacy rehearsal and didn't text. For a week, the lock remembered only us. Tests return like weather, indiscriminate and intimate. At 12:17 a.m. the app blinked. New guest code created, Miles G voice control enabled. The command had come from the living room speaker. The transcript was crisp as a receipt. Hey home, said a new 4-digit for guest, name him Miles, pause G. I stood, walked to the speaker and watched its ring breathe like a practiced liar. I said hey home, disable voice guests. It said done. It asked if I wanted to forget recognized voices. I said yes. like a man closing a window that insists on being an invitation. At 12:58 the lock sighed. Rowan came in with rain in his hair and a sentence ready. He called from downstairs, he said. He asked if kindness could be a spare key. I said kindness has nouns. He said his name was a coincidence. I said coincidence isn't permission. Do you want to hate me now or later? I prefer now. I like the way you come back from it. I'm tired of coming back, I said. I want to stay. He nodded and deleted the ghost of the guest code in front of me, not as spectacle but like a man returning a key to the correct hook. He touched my jaw with 2 fingers, the intimacy director's sacrament, repurposed for domestic faith, and for once the gesture belonged exactly where it landed. We went to bed without performing an essay on forgiveness. We used our mouths the way men do who still prefer heat to cleverness. The room didn't applaud. It didn't need to. Weeks alter even honest bruises. The lock learned modesty. The intercom retired from amateur confession. The city kept making rooms that want to pronounce us. I kept the kettle and the chair we move when words try to riot. On a Tuesday afternoon that pretended to be harmless, an envelope slid under our door. A flattened luggage tag threaded with twine, stamped in tidy letters. MC on the back, a careful hand I recognized from programs and sticky notes. I don't keep souvenirs. I keep systems. I hung it on the hook by the door like both a warning and a graduation. Another test came dressed as kindness. At 12:24 a.m., a text from an unknown number. Left a sweater on your chair. Can I swing by for it? I typed our door is asleep, then blocked the thread and set my phone face down like a witness with decent manners. When Rowan came home, he held his hands out empty. He'll buy a new sweater, he said. I told him ours only fit us. Do we move the chair? I asked. We can look at it, he said. We stood with our palms on the back of it like men praying to a god made of good furniture. Then we went to bed and chose warmth without an audience. In the dark, he kissed me like a man paying dues with the right currency at last, slow interest, honest arithmetic. If there's a patron saint of quiet bravery, it's the way 2 hands relearn accuracy. The door log stayed blank. The night did not insist on a transcript. Tomorrow we'll try again. Apps will offer quizzes dressed as care. Guest codes will pretend they're verbs. The other Miles will exist where he exists, a person, not a villain. Donors will clap in the wrong places. The city will keep inventing nights that want to name us without asking. But when Rowan says here, my body has stopped auditioning for suspicion. If another hour offers me a green checkmark with a name that resembles mine, or a 4-digit code that wants to curate our mouths, I hope I remember the handful of humiliating, useful acts that got us through this one. Put water on. Move the chair when words try to riot. Ask why before who. Hold the breath before contact and let it finish being the scene. Then wait for the lock's small throat clearing like it's the first note in a song we can still tune to. We didn't get away with anything. We stayed. We are still staying. The building can keep its ledgers, the river can keep its absolutions, the lobby can keep its glass. We'll keep being the address. Or, on the nights we can't, the map that admits its misprints and still shows the way back. Past the awning that thinks it's a sentence. Past the elevator's red dot that loves its own memory. Into a kitchen where a chair remembers what it's for. A kettle keeps its 7:05 appointment. And 2 hands that have done worse learn again how to touch without asking the night to edit.